What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. If you want to support me, you can now follow me on Patreon. Not only is it the best way to support the channel, additionally you'll get more say in what decks I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons, Newsome, you rock. Additionally, you can always use that TCGplayer link in the description down below to help out the channel. Now let's get into today's Deck Tech with Wayta. And honestly, this girl's a lot more explosive than I initially thought. Now she does take a lot of setup, but once you get the pieces on the board, she's incredibly explosive and does some pretty busted things. First of all, just doubling up on those Enrage abilities can be pretty good on their own, especially when you're drawing double cards or you're getting 2 land cards per turn. Pretty busted. Then we're going to throw in a Seedborn Muse because only doing that once per turn is kind of lame. Not only is doing it on our opponent's turns going to refresh all of our creatures' toughness, which is kind of important because we don't want to kill our Enrage creatures, it's also going to allow us to get 3 additional untaps instead of just 1. So again, Seedborn Muse is going to be solid and busted in the deck. Another thing we're definitely going to take advantage of is just creatures that are useful with Indestructible. Take Toski here. It's a 1/1 Indestructible. It's going to be very easy for us to use Toski as a just, punching bag. Now we can go ahead and have our Enrage triggers fight Toski, and Toski doesn't care. Toski's indestructible. We just get value. Another thing we can use is Stuffy Doll and Brash Taunter. They like to get hit anyway, so might as well start hitting them, and then we start dealing damage to our opponents, which again is doubled because of our commander. There's a lot of just fun stuff you can do with this deck that ends in a lot of crazy scenarios, and there is a couple ways to go infinite just because of how crazy she is. Once you start giving things indestructible, there's a couple cards you string together and you can just have infinite fight triggers, infinite untaps. It's kind of crazy. So without further ado, if that sounds like a deck tech you want to get into, let's get into it. Let's kick it off by talking about those Enrage triggers. We have Ranging Raptors. The ability to throw 2 lands onto the battlefield every turn can be very impactful. Ripjaw Raptor can make sure we're drawing a ton of cards. Silverclad Ferocidons are going to be very oppressive. Notably, it doesn't prevent us from making them sack lands. So in a scenario where we can just have infinite Enrage triggers, we can make them sack everything. Vondrus is also very cool. The ability just to create some 5/4 dragons can be really impactful and really deal a lot of damage to our opponents, since we're adding like 10 power to the board every time we trigger this guy's Enrage ability. Ripjaw Tyrant is going to be incredibly oppressive. Remember, we are doubling up on all these Enrage abilities, so just being able to exile 2 creatures whenever we deal damage to this guy can be incredibly insane. Apex Alistor. This guy's just going to fight everything and deal a lot of damage. Notably, there's a couple of ways we can make this guy indestructible and he just kills the entire board. Cacophedon. This guy's the one responsible for letting us go infinite. All we need to do is make sure our commander's on the battlefield to double up on that untap ability. Then we'll be able to untap her and then a land. That way we can activate her again. Then we need to make sure all of our creatures have indestructible. Now we have infinite Enrage triggers. That way we can deal infinite damage, create infinite creatures. It just becomes crazy. We can even draw our deck. We can throw all our lands on the battlefield. Like I said, we'll just get infinite Enrage triggers. So as long as you have Cacophedon, your commander, everything's indestructible, and another Enrage ability, you get infinite Enrage triggers, so enjoy that. Wrathful Raptors can be responsible for dealing a ton of damage to our opponents, especially if 2 dinosaurs are fighting each other. We're just going to get 4 triggers, and that's going to be insane. Polyraptor, another guy that's just casually throwing 10 power on the battlefield as long as our commander's doubling up on that. Moving on, something you need to be careful about is not killing your own value pieces, right? These are big dinosaurs, and when we make them fight each other, they deal damage to each other. So it's very important to have another part of the deck that just is a bunch of creatures that want to get hit, for lack of a better word. Toski's going to be perfect for this. Not only is he indestructible, so he doesn't care how much times you hit him, he's only 1 power, so he's only going to deal 1 damage to whatever's hitting him. It's going to be a perfect ability to get a ton of Enrage triggers because Toski's not killing anything, and then you get card advantage off of him. Like I said, he's pretty perfect in the deck. Gideon Blackblade, now this one's pretty cool because not only can he become indestructible, but he'll make another creature indestructible. So you can just make sure those 2 are dealing damage to each other, and since they're both indestructible, they're both not going to care. Brash Taunter. Unlike Stuffy Doll, this guy actually has power, so we can hit him and he'll hit back. That's going to be why Stuffy Doll doesn't make the deck? I know some people are going to ask, but Stuffy Doll is a 0/1, so we're going to cut it. Jared Carthalion is definitely in the deck just to get big. I just thought it'd be cool to throw a Shield of Pariah or Pariah on this guy and see how big we can make him, and then just start dealing a ton of damage to our opponents, or once we get Wrathful Raptor out, we'll just start killing our own dinosaurs and bolting people in the face for a ton of damage. Darksteel Plate is going to be amazing here. Just giving our creatures indestructible is going to be a solid way to make sure they don't die. Throw in the deck is Hornet's Nest. Now this is honestly just in the deck because our commander can hit it and it's not going to die, and then we have as much Death Touch flying blockers as we want, which can actually be an incredible deterrent. Our opponents are never going to attack into those. And then once we get something like Indestructible on it, or we cast a Blasphemous Act, we're going to get a giant board state, so it's going to be solid there as well. Rite of Passage is pretty cool. It's just going to make our creatures bigger whenever they're hitting each other. Additionally, we do run Pyrohemia in the deck, so it's going to make it to where our creatures aren't affected by Pyrohemia because they're just going to get bigger, and our opponents are affected by Pyrohemia, so they're all going to die and we'll have a massive board state. The next thing we're going to look at is the core of the deck. We are running Inara. This is going to make our commander indestructible, so we can just have our commander fight all of our massive creatures and she's not going to die. Heroic Intervention can make all of our creatures indestructible, again allowing them to fight each other without dying, and Heroic Intervention can just protect our board state. Rhythm of the Wilds, haste is pretty cool, especially when you have giant dinosaurs. Bala Ged Recovery to recur anything. Pariah Shield and Pariah. We can throw this either on Jared Carthalion. We have a couple good targets for it. We also are running Phyrexian Vindicator. Throw this on Phyrexian Vindicator and just have some good old-fashioned fun. Swift of Boots is going to be good to protect our commander. Eternal Witness to return anything we need back from the graveyard. Blazing Sunsteel just goes infinite in this deck, so if you don't want that happening, don't put it in there. But how it works is basically all we need to do is deal 1 damage to the equipped creature, and as long as that equipped creature is indestructible, we'll get 2 Blazing Sunsteel targets. One will go back to that creature, and then the other one will go at someone's face, and you can do that indefinitely as long as your commander's out on the battlefield. It's pretty busted. Seedborn Muse. We can only fight once per turn using our commander. We do have fight spells in the deck later on, but only using our commander, we can only activate her once per turn unless we have the Cacophodon on the battlefield. Seedborn Muse is going to make it to where we can fight on each of our opponent's turns, giving us an insane amount of value and really catapulting us ahead of our opponents. Green Sun Zenith, Worldly Tutor, and Invasion of Ikoria are just going to make sure we get our key pieces on the battlefield. This deck does need a couple things to work, so this is just going to make the deck a lot more consistent. Additionally, we can flip Invasion of Ikoria and get that massive dinosaur, so it's a win-win. Moving on to card advantage, we have Orin Frostfang. There's a couple reasons I chose this guy. One, he's just generically good in any creature deck that's trying to go wide and attack with a bunch of creatures. Additionally, he only gives Death Touch on attack, so he won't prevent us from using our commander, and then he will disincentivize our opponents from blocking our creatures. Notably, whenever our creatures fight each other, they will reduce the toughness that they have, so we really do want to disincentivize them from blocking our creatures and killing them. Naiath of the Dire Hunt, just a solid way to get card advantage and double up on the power. It's just going to synergize amazingly with the deck. Hunter's Insight, used correctly, this will draw you a full grip, but you can get blown out as someone just destroys your dinosaur that is attacking, so make sure people are tapped out and you can really abuse this card. Jessica's Will is not only going to be amazing when we get Pyrohemia on the battlefield, it's also going to allow us to cast our big dinos early while getting us some solid card advantage. Elemental Bond and Guruk's Uprising are going to be insanely good with a Polyraptor or Vondrus on the battlefield, but if there's not, our creatures are just generically big, so it's going to draw some cards there as well. Minsk and Boo can be incredibly impactful. Card advantage, removal, this guy's everything you want tacked onto a Planeswalker. Beast Whisperer, Guardian Projects, and the Great Hinge are just going to be solid card advantage pieces whenever we're casting or our creatures are entering the battlefield. Rishkar's Expertise can get us some solid card advantage while getting us a free spell. Return of the Wild Speaker, again, just some solid card advantage. Moving on to ramp, we have Findhorn Elves, Bloom Tinder, and Fairbrew Elder. Tapping these for 3 mana is just going to be insane. Goblin and Archomancer is going to lower all of our green and red spells, which can be incredibly impactful. Secure Tribe Elder, 3 visits, Farseek, Nature's Lore, the usual suspects, and then we have Kodama's Reach and Cultivate. I like these just to ensure that you're getting your next land drop and ramping you a little bit. Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, surprise, surprise, are also going to make the cut. Moving on to removal, we have Uvenwald Tracker, just another way we can use our creatures to fight our opponent's creatures. Feral Encounter, Contest of Claws, Prize Fight, and Bushwhack are all going to be incredibly impactful fight spells. I like how they all give you somewhat of a benefit besides just a fight spell, so they're very flexible. Shatter Skull Smashing, not only is it a land, it can also destroy some creatures. Pyrohemia, you knew this was going to be in the deck. Bane of Progress to get rid of those enchantments and artifact strategies, and then we have Blasphemous Act for a solid just board wipe. That's going to do it for the deck tech, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really think Wayta has the potential to be the best fight commander right now. Not only do you get a free way for your creatures to fight, but you get to utilize their Enrage ability in a way we haven't seen done before that creates some explosive board states. So I'm very excited for this commander, and I hope you guys are as well. With that being said, thank you for watching. I'd like to thank my high contributing patrons, Newsome, Excessum, and Chicken Salad. You guys are amazing. You keep the channel going. I also appreciate all my other patrons. If you guys want to become a patron and start voting weekly on deck techs, the link is in the description down below. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors. I'll see you in the next one.